Hello, good morning. I'm going to do something I've never done before, and it's not the washing up. It's do a video in the kitchen. So it might be a little echoey, but there you go. The video is about rest strokes. As I said I was going to do one a little while ago and I didn't. So, what is a rest stroke? As I've said in class, the rest means we rest our finger, whatever finger is plucking the string, be it thumb, finger, or of course finger and plectrum. We rest it on the string adjacent to the string we're plucking, and normally the adjacent string is the one towards the floor. So if I pluck the A string with the plectrum, with a rest stroke, I'm now resting on the D string, the string towards the floor. Now, as with everything in music, we learn by remembering how it feels and repeating that feeling. We can't rely on the way it looks. We certainly can't rely on the way it sounds. We have to rely on the feeling. And we get that by doing it right at least once, like that. Just doing one very, very, very simple thing, plucking a string and resting your plectrum or thumb on the next string towards the floor. We know that's right because it's a very simple technique. But when we repeat it, we may well be thinking about other things like chords and note numbers and rhythms. So that has to be automatic. The only way to get that automatic is to practice it a lot, but we must practice the feeling. We're trying to internalize the feeling so that we naturally do that. That must become our habit. The only way that can become a physical habit is to do it a lot and to recognize that it's right. Even recognizing it's wrong is good, because then we can do something different. The worst thing is not to know. If you don't know you're doing rest strokes, then that's a problem. You're never going to learn like that. You've got to know you're doing rest strokes. So I know those are all rest strokes because they feel right. They've got to be rest strokes because the feeling under my thumb is the same every time. As opposed to free strokes. I mean, I never do free strokes with my thumb, hardly, unless I'm finger picking, which is a completely different technique. Rest strokes are done with one digit or one plectrum. So if I play a little riff, I know those are rest strokes. Even if I take my plectrum off to play the next chord, whatever it might be, when I pluck the note, I'm resting. As opposed to free strokes. Physically or tactilely, it will affect your plucking hand. With rest strokes, because we're focusing on the next string towards the floor, our hand will likely rotate a touch. But we don't want to approach it like that. We just want to make sure that we're plucking the string nearest the floor. The hand position will come with the right technique. It's always going to look a bit different depending on who you are, depending on how long your fingers are, whether your wrist is bent or not bent. But in general, when we pluck and rest, we'll see more of our palm than when we do, say, free strokes, like that, or alternative picking, which is down, up, with no resting. Alternative picking is good for speed, but most guitar stuff, we don't need speed, really. Most melodies, simple riffs, can be done perfectly well with rest strokes. We can rest stroke a chord. every string I rested on. Rest, 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 rest. With a top string, I've got no string to rest on, have I? We still do the same physical movement. If it was a 7-string guitar, God forbid, I'd rest on the even higher string. So each rest stroke is part of a strum, in a manner of thinking. A strum is a series of rest strokes done really quickly, like that. Those are all rest strokes. It's so quick, we can't even notice. But normally, we do think of rest strokes as being individual notes. Rest strokes. And they give a slightly different tone to the sound. They also give consistency because your thumb or your plectrum is always the same distance from the string you just plucked. So that gives you consistency. Your plectrum isn't in mid-air, which is more difficult, in my opinion, because mid-air can be anywhere, can't it? Whereas on the next string is always the same distance from where you started. Strings are evenly spaced, aren't they? It gives a consistency to your hand shape, and it sounds good. And your other advantages, well, that's about it really. To me, the main advantage is technical consistency. In other words, every one of those plucks felt the same to me because I was always the same distance from my original note. I was always, about 7 or 8 millimeters adjacent to it, always, which is good. Consistency means good technique. So that's about it for rest strokes. If you can do rest strokes, you're a better guitarist, in my opinion. A guitarist that can't do rest strokes or has never practiced them is missing something really important from their playing. Because to get that sound, the second one was without rest strokes. To get that heavy, plucking sound, rest strokes are really important. It's a very consistent tone to what you play because you're doing the same thing, whether with thumb, or even fingers. Incidentally, you can pluck with your fingers and do up rest strokes. So there I'm resting on the string nearest to the ceiling, but that's like a bass guitar technique or a classical guitar technique. I've never taught that in guitar lessons unless it's classical guitar. In classical guitar, it's called apoyando, which is Spanish for upon. But we don't generally do that in terms of more contemporary guitar. You'll very, very rarely ever see a non-classical guitarist doing that. Like I said, unless they're a bass player. Bass players do it all the time. They're resting on the string adjacent, but it's the string nearest to the ceiling. For the same reason, because it gives you consistency of technique. It's always exactly the same, and it gives a slightly more fuller sound, depending on whether you're using the plectrum or fingers. So yeah, notice what you're doing, remember the feel of it when it's right, and we make the most important thing to do, make sure the first one is right. If you don't know if it was a rest stroke, then that's a problem. Put your plectrum or thumb on a string. Think, I'm going to pluck that string and I'm going to rest my thumb on the string nearest the floor. Sorry, on the string next to it, going down towards the floor. And then do it. Know it's right. by the way it feels. If we don't hit the next string, we won't feel it, will we? Know it's right by the way it feels. And then you can start to repeat the feeling. And if you repeat the feeling 1,000 times, it will become a habit. That's what a habit is, isn't it? Some people get it straight away. Some people take 2 years to do it. Practicing. So it can take a while. The important thing is you must know it's wrong. Everything we do in terms of tactile on guitar, not in terms of rhythm and note numbers and stuff, everything that's physical, we must feel it's right before we do it. So if I intend to pluck this note and then rest stroke it, I must know what feeling I'm intending to get. I must know that that's the feeling I intend to get. Not a free stroke, not leaving my thumb or plectrum in mid-air, because that feels completely different. Feels completely different. Like if you touch a surface, you can tell with your fingertips whether it's an orange or an apple, for instance, just by the way it feels. Same with this. It's a really obvious feeling, but unless you concentrate on the way it feels, you're not going to internalize it. And that means make it a habit that you don't have to think about. Because when we're thinking about note numbers and rhythms and what bar we're on and what string we're on and everything else, we can't think about our rest strokes. The rest strokes have got to be automatic. So that's why we practice, to make it automatic, to make the right thing or the intended technique automatic. So anyway, I think I'm going to drink my coffee now. Bye-bye.